Hi everyone, I'm Sumisha Gilotra, Editor Architect in Interiors India, and I'm very delighted today because I have a very special guest at Candid Conversations, Architect Dean Cruz. What is it that you're working on right now which you absolutely love?
We work now mostly in north, mostly in Madhya Pradesh and in tiger sanctuaries across that area.
Wow, that's wild.
So it's fascinating because it gives you the chance and opportunity to actually engage with nature, work with different materials, different climatic ranges, and so it's enjoyable. It doesn't feel like working, in fact, because it's you get that ability to travel and experience nature at its primest.
Wow, that also must be giving you an opportunity to explore a lot of materials. So what is it that you're working with? Are you going back to traditional materials or are you exploring materials that are new age and more tech savvy?
I think we do both there. So it depends on the project. So sometimes it's just keeping it as natural as possible. We use wood from fallen trees in the forest and in construction, or we use mud. Sometimes we do tech in the jungle. Basically, even industrial materials which can be appropriate because some of them are designed in such a way that they can actually insulate properly or be lightweight, so you don't have a large footprint of the land. So it depends on what the situation is and how do we actually address that. But it's always fun because there is no one formula to design. You're constantly learning. That's extremely important for an architect because you shouldn't have that stamp of this is sort of type of building or this is style in which a person works in. So I think that makes it worthwhile.
That's fantastic. You've had a long journey in architecture so far. How many years may I say?
Almost 45.
Wow, that's a lot. That's more than how old I am, but yes. So tell me, you must have seen a lot of architecture grow, change, perceptions of people change. How has the journey been for you so far?
So I think in terms of perceptions, while we get to do a lot of work, across the broad range of projects, right from houses to hospitality to institutional work, I think the concerns are really where we're putting our money and what is this the new architecture that we need for India. I mean, India's been through a sort of struggle of trying to ape the West in some way. More recently, it's been trying to recognize its own sort of strengths and history, and that's really nice to see that happening. But it's also a challenge of the younger generation actually engaging with that. As far as I see, education institutions are now struggling to actually deliver in their curriculum a quality of architects that really we need out there. Some people with rigor, people who are determined to actually make a difference, and not just cater to the market. Most institutions tend to cater to the market, and they're not really creating thinkers. So I think that's a big challenge. That's why I've got into education in a way. So presently I'm design chair at the university in Bangalore, and I've been teaching, conducting workshops across the country. So that keeps me engaged with the academic world.
No, that's very responsible, and I think it's very important for sort of reaching out and setting the right examples for the generations ahead.
And the other concern is really the way we engage with the need for good architecture across the country, because most architects are very urban-centric. They cater to an elite population. And the rural population or people who really need it. I mean, by 2030, we will have a shortage of about 30 million houses. And this is for the people of India. We're not counting the rich, the super rich at least in part of that. And, but we're not catering to that thing. So because there are no incentives to actually create, and this can be easily done. A lot of countries have actually addressed the issues of housing, even third world countries. So we need a serious look at that, and architects need to participate and provide solutions that can address this extremely serious problem that we have.
So what do you think is the solution for something like this, and are you working with any government bodies to sort of address these?
Well, academically I try and, in the academic curriculum is try and get people to look at a more hands-on sort of architecture so that they really engage in more rural specific sort of studies so that they know what the problems are out there. Where in a way at times say, how do you actually give back to the world? I mean, we've actually taken the world. Before, architects were just master craftspeople.
Right.
We've suddenly created this thing where, no, this is ours now, we will tell you what to do. Before, we created these extremely wonderful buildings, just people who really from generation to generation passed on this art, and yet created a wide variety of styles and approaches to architecture using really appropriate materials there. But we've lost that. We've become into this almost factory-like situation of delivering the standard approaches to architecture. So therefore, we need to actually give back in a way. So what we bring on board is maybe an aesthetic sense, maybe bring in new technologies. But there is a world of craftspeople out there that we need to tap into, which is dying out very fast. Before we lose it completely, I think we need to engage with them and actually bring back the art of building.
That's very thoughtful, and I think that there is a thought that is treading towards this direction where people are working and focusing on bringing Indian arts and crafts in the foreground, using them in functional art, etc. And it's a good direction to go towards, right? Yeah, I'm so glad about that. Tell me a project that has really touched you recently that you've seen and you've sort of thought that, wow, it doesn't have to be necessarily your project, but something that you've seen, a work of art or a piece of architecture that has really wowed you.
Not something that I've done.
It could be both.
I mean, it's not really a project, but I think it's an approach that since I spoke about the need to go rural, I've recently visited this place called Honar, which is in Pune.
Okay.
It's a group of young architects actually got together, and they're training young boys in the art of building. So alternative building, so really working with mud, working with compressed blocks, basic woodworking, lime plaster, situ flooring. And so it's 1 year in-house program, and these boys go back to their villages with the skill of building. So now they're able to challenge this intrusive sort of typical contractor style building, building concrete and these really hot boxes, where they're actually now creating an architecture that's more responsive to the local climate, where you're creating livelihoods through architecture. So it's because it can be done by anybody with just a little basic training. And that's the sort of approach I think we need to sort of engage with, where architects now actually start using their skills and become effective in basically catering to the housing need.
Wow, that sounds very interesting. You said this was in Pune. Oh wow! I think you should all probably have these little communities. In fact, while you were talking earlier, I was just thinking that how FSI works in Bombay, where to get certain amount of height, you need to sort of relocate or provide housing for people you're relocating, etc. Maybe something like that in terms of architecture would probably help solve the housing problem that you were talking about, where every time you're building, say, a multi-development project, you also sort of design a little project for people who need it. I don't know if there are such policies in place.
UK has, for example, a policy where 40% of this goes as a sort of affordable housing for local people. They still pay for it, but they pay a much subsidized rate for it. So the developer, who now is king and is much more important than the architect, is really incentivized, I would say, in a way to actually provide for the lower section of society. And unfortunately in India, we also need to get past this whole class and caste sort of barrier that we have, because of course it's the caste system, but we also have an economic caste system which is there, which is basically it's your maid, your driver and everything are to be kept as far away from the way you live. Whereas in parts of Europe, you may be garbage collector, but you can still live in the same locality. So how can we get past those things so we have a more integrated community? Community that really has a richer sort of context. We have all sections of society in it, a far more cosmopolitan and economically sort of diverse situation. So I think if actually one incentivizes developers and say that if you are taking up this piece of land, they make a lot of money, you can easily subsidize the other sections of society and create sort of communities which are far more resilient.
Okay, Dean, tell us a little bit about yourself. So 45 years back, life would have been different. How did you choose to become an architect?
Quite by chance. So of course, my father was an engineer, therefore he wanted me to be an engineer. And fortunately, so I appeared to my IIT exam, halfway through the paper, I realized I'm not going to get in. And I walked across this very pretty looking campus to the railway station where I was supposed to catch a train back to where I stayed. And it happened to be the JJ campus, and I saw a sign over there that said free forms. So I picked up a form, but I realized when I checked my career guidance scores, the school had this career guidance course, and it actually ticked off architecture as the main one. It's just so we tend to block your mind about what you're supposed to do in life, and luckily I found my true calling as an architect. And,
that's fantastic. So architecture colleges should look very attractive, at least on the outside, to attract fantastic candidates like him, and have free forms outside so they can just pick them up. But that's interesting, and you've enjoyed it since then and created sports.
I think the other dream I had was to be a sports car driver. But I think this is far more exciting.
I like how you put it. That's a silver lining, maybe. But that's very interesting. So, what is that one project that you have designed which you absolutely love?
It's a very,
I know you have to choose between your children, but you have to do it
I know.
sometimes.
I think it's some of the low-cost homes that I've done actually. So where I've done these really expensive houses and very expensive sort of resorts. I think it's the homes
The ones
which,
that media like us feature.
yeah, it's the ones which have engaged with the owners a lot, and where they come as clients and leave as friends. And I think that's so important. And it is that. So there's one particular home which I designed, in which after I completed the home, the boys, one of their sons wrote a poem, the other wrote a song, and they had this really lovely dinner in the house, and that was far more rewarding than the fees even I got. So I think it's that engagement. You realize that architecture is no longer a career; it becomes almost a vocation. You're actually changing people's lives, and you're able to make a difference to their lives and yours, because it's an extremely emotional sort of experience.
That's so lovely to know. And there are a lot of architects who are working in our country, and then you have architects like you who are actually working towards contributing and the growth of the country. Thank you so much for joining me, Dean, and I absolutely enjoyed this conversation. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.